All right, let's learn about crate settle part 2. This is how we can train our dogs that staying in a crate when we leave and close the door and go away is not going to be as bad as they think it is. If your dog is having a full-blown panic attack when you leave, so your dog is biting at the crate door, your dog has broken out of crates, your dog does not settle after a couple minutes of being in the crate, you are going to need more than this training video to fix that. You're going to have to rely on some management as well as training. So if you feel like your dog is in a panic attack mode after it's crated, you need the guidance of a professional trainer to help with that deep-rooted emotional reaction to this crating. So this video is for dogs that just have some mild symptoms of crate stress. So a perfect example of this is my dog Toby. So you can see him here. I am a couple feet away from him and I'm about to go out of an exterior door. And he is already showing a little bit of stress right now. He is crying, whining, but he's not biting at the kennel doors. He's just a little bit stressed out. So I am going to use this video to try and make him feel more comfortable with me being gone. So let's see how he does. Let's see if we can get him feeling a little bit more better. Alright, so the first step in trying to help this behavior is by teaching the dog to pretty much do like a mat settle almost. And we just put the mat inside of the crate. We're going to start with the crate door open so that the dog doesn't feel trapped. That feeling of confinement is what dogs sometimes struggle with. So I'm going to leave the door open and I'm just going to hang out and give him treats every 1 second at the first, and then I'm going to start to give a treat after 2 seconds of him staying there. And notice how I'm right up close to the crate. I'm not expecting him to be okay with me being farther away from the crate quite yet. I'm right up close to it. And I'm just counting 1, 2, 1, 2. And after I say 2, I'm going to give him a treat. And as he gets really good with 2 seconds, I'm going to make it harder for him and expect him to stay after 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Yes, and treat. 1, 2, 3. Yes, and treat. 1, 2, 3. Yes, and treat. And then I'll release him. I want him to feel like he's in control over his entry and exit of the crate. I don't want him to feel like he's trapped in there. I want him to want to be in there. So I'm just going to gradually build and build on the duration that he's expected to lay down and settle. And the reason why I like to train the dog to be in a down stay more or less while he's in the crate is because that feeling of laying down and settling, like in a mat settle exercise, kind of has the body tell the brain, let's try and settle down here. This is the position we take when we are relaxed. So I like to try and train the dog to do the crate settle in a down position. I'm not going to expect the dog at the end of this training session to stay in a down stay the whole 8 hours while I'm away at work. But it helps on the front end, I think, to kind of inspire feelings of calm. So while I'm training him, I'm going to want him to be in that down stay the whole time for that crate settle. So it looks like I've got him up to crate settling for 5 seconds now. See if we can get him to 7 seconds. And after every count for that duration, I'm saying yes and I'm giving him a treat. Notice how I'm standing up now. Realistically, we are going to ask our dog to crate settle when we're in a standing position. I don't want the dog to break the crate settle when we go from a crouching or a sitting position to a standing position. So once the dog has familiarity with this training exercise, let's make it more realistic and let's stand up and ask them to do it. So he's got the 7-second crate settle down, so I'm going to release him. And then we're going to work more on building distance with that crate door open. So previously we worked duration, now we're going to do distance. And the distance is the hard part for them. Because the dogs that are crated, they normally have some kind of stress because they don't want to be away from you. And then being in that crate prevents them from following you. So that's where that stress and that frustration tends to originate from. So building distance is going to be key here. Now, if the dog can't successfully crate settle with distance and the crate door open, there's no way I can expect him to crate settle with distance with the door closed. So just like with the duration, I'm going to start with the distance with the crate door open as well. If that door wasn't on that crate, would your dog still be in that crate, even if you're gone? I want to try and convince him that that's the case. And if your dog pops up before you release them, like Kobe just said there, it's no big deal. Just simply resettle them, reinforce them for making the decision to resettle, and just resume your training activity. Notice that when I'm creating distance, I'm walking around in a circle. I want him to get used to observing me while crate settling at all different angles. I'm not just backing up, staring at him straight in the face. I'm trying to go all over the place. I don't want him to rely on my body moving in a certain way for him to signal that the exercise is over. All right, so now we're going to build distance with distraction with the crate door open. So the distraction that your dogs are going to experience is you walking out of the door. So I am going to gradually play with this door right here. And I'm going to reward him for crate settling in the presence of me walking away from him and making a motion as if I was going to leave. But I'm not going to start out leaving at the start. I'm going to start by just opening that door all the way, turning my body to the threshold as if I'm about to leave, but I'm not actually going to leave. I'm going to gradually mimic more of the realistic behavior of me walking out that door. So now I'm almost completely out of sight of him, and again, that's the hardest part. Dogs build up this association in their brain that when mom or dad interact with this door handle, it means they're going to leave for 8 hours and not come back. So I'm trying to interrupt that thought process in his head and let him know that just because I go out of that door and I interact with that door doesn't mean that I'm always going to be gone for 8 hours. Sometimes it just means that I'm going to be gone for 3 seconds. And if you stay settled in your crate for those 3 seconds, you get a reward for it. You get a food reward and you get my attention. And you get to be released from that crate. All right, so now we are going to start building that duration and distance with the door closed. So you're just going to build duration and distance here. Going to introduce this door being closed. And again, this door closure can have a built-in association for the dog. If you have a dog that has some crate stress, that door being closed on that crate could signify to the dog that, oh man, mom or dad's about to go to work and leave me for 8 hours in here. So after I close the crate door, I want to reinforce him for experiencing that. I want to try and switch any kind of negative association he has with that crate door being closed. And here I'm just counting again, just like I did with the door open. I'm counting 1, 2, 1, 2. I'll gradually make the duration that I'm counting in my head longer and longer, making it harder and harder for him. And he's spending a lot of time sniffing around for some treats, so I want to wait for him to look at me and acknowledge me, and then I'll start counting 1, 2 before I reinforce. 1, 2, yes, and treat. 1, 2, yes and treat. 1, 2, yes and treat. And I'm going to maintain my criteria of a downstay while I open that door. I don't want the dog to get into the habit of bolting out that door once it opens. And then on my terms, I say free to release him. All right, now we're going to add some distance. Just because the dog was really successful with distance with the door open doesn't mean he's going to be as successful with the door closed. So we're going to start all the way from the beginning again with this. I'm going to start to shift my weight to give an indication of movement. And I'll gradually start to move away. Still working that duration here. I'll gradually start to move away. Asking for more duration here. Again, maintaining the downstay criteria. As I open that crate door, I want him to release when I say release. And let's see if I add some distance here. I might be adding some distance later. Okay, this is where I'm adding distance with distraction with the crate door closed. So I'm going to start to walk away from the crates. And then I will start to interact with that door again. Building that distance up. Keeping my angles funky. I'm never trying to walk in a straight line. I don't want my movements to become predictable for him. While I'm training, I want to try and simulate movement that I would have in the real world. And realistically, I might leave his crate from a 45-degree angle. I might leave it from a 20-degree angle. I might leave it while I have my back turned towards him. I might leave it while I have my face turned towards him. I always want to keep him guessing. I don't want to make my body motions predictable, because if I do, I might inadvertently be cueing the dog to predict a certain thing's going to happen. So he's gotten up here, so I'm going to cue him to downstay again. Again, that's just to try and influence feelings of calm. I'm not expecting him to downstay for a full 8-hour workday. I just want to ask him to do it from the start. I want to try and influence low arousal levels. Now I'm leaving the door, coming back. And remember, at the start of this video, he was very antsy with me leaving, and now he's gotten a lot better with it because of this short training session. Now, at the start of the video, I was just leaving for like a minute and a half. That was it. It takes a long time before the dog gets comfortable with you leaving for like a whole 8-hour workday. This is something that takes a lot of time. And I can't stress to you guys enough how important it is for you guys to try and think how serious your dog's crate stress is. Is he having a full-blown panic attack? And if so, you're going to need to consult the help of professionals with this behavior. If you feel like it's some mild stress, then this training will help you. But if it's a full-blown panic attack, it's not going to be enough. This video is not going to be enough. All right, Kobe did great. I'm super proud of him. If you have any questions, let me know.